Okay, so thank you everybody very much for answering our quick poll questions. We're going to get started now. I want to thank everybody right off the top for spending time with us today. Okay, so we are going to get started with Sarah.
Well, welcome everyone to the beautiful Fairfaxon Theater, FFT. Of course, I'm not actually in the theater. I'm, have one of these groovy Zoom backgrounds. Of course, we wish we were welcoming you into our amazing spaces and to campus, and to be able to chat and to talk to you, and also to have you talk to each other, right? I mean, there's just some things that we especially know in the arts that cannot be replicated in digital formats, and certainly not in one like this. But I'm really grateful that you've taken the time to be with us, and I hope we can give you a little bit of information that will be helpful to you or reassuring to you. And of course, I'm also really happy to take questions. I really want to also just acknowledge the parents that we have here today. I am myself the parent of a first-year university student, so I've had a front row seat for the kind of craziness of applying to schools and looking at the best place for my child. But also, what students have gone through over the past several weeks in terms of transitioning to online learning. And one of the things that's made me really excited to be, and really grateful to be going through all of the COVID craziness at AMPD, is that whereas a lot of people were making the change very abruptly, we actually have a decade of experience of excellence in e-learning. So while certainly not all of our courses were designed to be online, and we made a whole bunch of transitions in a very short period of time, we actually had an infrastructure and framework to be able to to deliver really high quality and comparable experiences to our students, right, in relatively quick time. But before I kind of, address specifics of AMPD, I thought it might be really helpful if you've encountered any of the questions that perhaps, I've encountered over a, now 25-year career in the arts, which has to do fundamentally with why do we study the arts? And by the arts, I'm going to refer to all kinds of things, right? Art, design, performance, digital media, industry work, gaming, animation, creative activities of all kinds, music certainly. But I thought I just wanted to give you a little bit of my thoughts on what I think we're doing here, and also what you can do here with us, and what we'd really like to do with you if you decide to enroll. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to share my screen for a moment. Okay, so you should be able to see me. Can everyone see me? Or no, I'm sorry, you should be able to see the slides but hear me. So I'm just gonna, I don't have much indication, so I'm just gonna trust that that's happening right now, and someone I'm sure will send up a signal flare if there's a problem. So this won't take a long time, and maybe it'll be kind of, redundant to things you've already thought about and you already know. Part of how I approach this is actually through the lens of a multi-generational artist, which is to say that I didn't just pursue the arts myself as a practitioner and as a researcher. I was also raised by an artist. My father is a professional puppeteer, which means that in the early part of his life, he had a career ambition to play with dolls for a living. And a lot of people thought he was kind of crazy to do this. And they, looked around and they were like, you'll never make a living at this. How would anyone possibly, do this? What are you talking about? And then along came Sesame Street and the Muppet Show. And all of a sudden, puppets were quite in demand, and people were thinking about, oh, maybe this is something that one can do. And every time I hear stories about, what we're preparing for today, I always think back to my dad and his belief in puppetry as something that gave him and lots of other people a tremendous amount of pleasure, and also took a lot of work and a lot of craft. And he had a 35-year career teaching other people to do it, and has had a successful career and been able to point other people in that direction. And that thinking about that and sort of what the puppets looked like before, the Muppet Show hit the airways, really reminds me of our kind of first point, which is why are we studying the arts? because it's not just about learning for today, it's about learning for the future. And that's not just trying to predict what are the careers of tomorrow or how is a particular field going to change. We know fields are going to change. I mean, look, the last 2 months have really done nothing if they've not shown us that things can change and change very quickly. And that also, you know, we in the arts, we have a lot of capacity for change. And what we know is that as things evolve, as new opportunities emerge, we're going to continue to see that. So one of the things that we focus on in AMPD is not just training in particular technical areas, although you will get that. And it's not just about learning the history and theory of different forms and techniques, although you'll get that too. It's really about cultivating some really kind of core principles and skills that you can take regardless of what career path you pursue or the many career paths you might look at and jobs you might have over the course of your life, right? And the first is that this learning for the future is about being imaginative. It's about being self-directed. It's about being collaborative and having awareness and engagement with the technological. And I was actually just on a phone call yesterday with a design thinking lab that does a lot of consulting work in California for places like Nike and Microsoft. And they help large companies think about the future, and they think about it creatively. And I asked the creative director of this lab, you know, what she looks for in new collaborators, what she looks for in team members, what she's looking to hire. And these are all of the things that she's really thinking about: imaginative, self-directed, collaborative, and technological, right? People who have some facility and ability to understand digital environments and to think in a kind of technological mindset. But that's not the most important thing. It's really about cultivating your imagination, understanding how to take up work on your own, and then how to share that with others. So what you'll hear kind of broadly talked about in a lot of arts and design schools is this idea of creativity, right? Creativity is the most transferable skill, right? And that's certainly true. But what is creativity, right? How do we break that down? And more importantly, how do we teach it, learn it, and practice it, right? What are you going to do if you're creative? It's not something that someone simply is, or a state of being. It's actually something that can be cultivated. And for us and for me, it's really about these kind of 4 key components that are true in every program across AMPD, whether it's art history or the acting conservatory or digital media. And that's really about cultivating observation, ingenuity, enterprise, and courage. So here's a little bit about how we think about these things. So observation. This is something that you can do right now, every day, and is a critical skill that everybody across AMPD practices, right? It's looking at the world around you and turning a critical, creative eye towards it, right? What's around you? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges? It's also about observation of the past, right? Learning about what's come before you. And also having ideas about what can come before. It's about identifying problems and then finding the resources that might be part of the solution, right? So observation is a really critical skill. The second is ingenuity, right? And this has the same etymological root as genius. But that's not to say that you have to be a genius in order to be ingenious, right? It's about having the kind of skills to put together a number of different ideas in real time and kind of thinking about. So not just observing and identifying a problem, but then beginning to think about, okay, so what can we put together to solve that? What are the solutions? What are the opportunities? What can I bring to this moment? What can I bring to this opportunity? What do I have to share? And that's, again, something that you'll learn as you cultivate skills and techniques across every program in the School of the Arts, Media, Performance, and Design. The third is enterprise. And this is really about being able to connect the dots and not just between different ideas, but between different people, between different domains. Collaboration, coordination, and transdisciplinary exploration are really key values here at AMPD. We don't believe that the artist of the future is ever going to be only one thing, right? That people need to be connected, but that doesn't mean that one individual has to know everything, right? Most of the important work that's happening today in virtually every industry is happening in teams. It's people bringing their specific expertise together, sharing those ideas, working out problems, and figuring out how to connect the dots in order to move the project forward. Again, to go back to this director of a design lab that I was speaking with yesterday, she talks about how every project has some fundamental principles, and then she will create a team underneath it to bring the skills that are needed in order to follow those principles. But anybody, as long as they're working within that kind of framework, can suggest an idea. And that again is the kind of thing that we move through in all of our programs here. It's related to another word that people use a lot, entrepreneurship. But it's more than that, right? It's not just about how to get and find a job. That's certainly a big part of it. But it's also how to sustain and navigate changing careers, right? We're not just training you for jobs of today. We're really preparing you to create the opportunities for yourself and others for tomorrow. And if you're thinking at this point, well, that sounds a little scary. It is, right? Taking on new challenges and the decision to become an artist or a scholar or someone who's really going to pursue their creativity, that takes a lot of courage. And the future is going to continue to require people to approach these challenges and these problems with resilience, but also with a lot of courage and faith in themselves and each other. And this is where this is part of being self-directed, and you'll learn that at AMPD by having opportunities, by having scaffolded experiences that will guide you from things that are little risks, so that you can over time make little mistakes, learn from those, and let those risks and those challenges and those opportunities become bigger and bigger. It's this quality that we have really distinctly in AMPD that is a big part of why so many of our graduates go on to become leaders in their field, whether they're running organizations or creating their own startups. They're doing this because they've been given a lot of faith and had opportunities to try and fail and try again in their programs. And over that, they've really developed this key skill and this key element of courage, the ability to try new things. Innovation, experimentation are really hallmarks of what we're doing here. They have been for the last 50 years and they will be for the next 50. And then I'm just going to finish with this last quote. This is actually this was a teaching evaluation of mine, and it's my favorite teaching evaluation I've ever received. And it is the description of my class is hard but fun. And I think this is a really important idea. The work that we do in AMPD, no matter what class, it should be a little bit hard, right? It should be challenging. Confronting things that are new, confronting things that are just beyond your skill set, things that are going to really challenge you to improve and grow. Those are hard, but it should also be fun, right? We do this because we have a passion for it, because we have ideas, because we have things that we need to share, and we do it with other people who share this goal of creating joy and beauty and experiences that are going to be beneficial to many folks. So fundamentally, I think at the end of the day, there's a really important foundational principle for me, at least, and in my own life, which is that it's hard, but it's fun. And we have to keep those in equal balance as well. All right, that's all I have in terms of sort of my take. I've probably gone on much too long, and so thanks and apologies for doing that, and I appreciate your attention. I'm going to stop my sharing now and kick it over to Jason, and then we'll move on to questions later. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Even though I can't see you, I just want to say it's really nice to virtually meet you. My name is Jason Marai, and I will be your Director for Student and Community Engagement at AMPD. I'm so excited that you're considering to join our faculty and our community. And I got to tell you, I'm also fairly new to the faculty. I joined just well over 8 months ago. And I could tell you that in my time here, I've come to know that there is something that makes this faculty exceptionally unique and exceptionally special. And that is, irregardless of what year you're in, all AMPD students have one thing in common, and that is your creative agency. And this creative agency exists throughout our entire faculty. And it's an experience that you're going to get through each of your years. So whether that's the friendships you're going to develop, or your classmates, or the assignments and projects that you're going to work on, or even the live performances you're going to be a part of, or maybe you might join student clubs or associations, or simply for the fact that AMPD is always looking for opportunities to create space for you to develop your creative artist identity. And that's what makes this faculty special. So in my role and in my job, I try to look for many opportunities to support you, both academically and personally, from the time that you're admitted into our program up until when you graduate. So this afternoon, I just want to share a few couple examples of what you can expect when you join our community. To begin, every single AMPD student has access to individualized one-on-one degree advising. We call this office the Office of Advising and Integrated Student Services, or OASIS for short. And we're the only faculty at York that offers advising appointments one-on-one with a student up to 45 minutes. So what does that mean? That means when you're meeting with our advisor, it really is about your time. So if you have questions about choices for courses, or adding a double major, or changing your minor, or maybe you have questions about if you're on the right pathway to achieving your degree, we have all the time in the world for you to answer any questions that you have. And all of our advisors are offered virtually right now. So we have that accessibility to provide for you. The other piece that I want to share is this faculty strongly believes in student leadership and development. That's why when it comes to your first year experience, what better way to prepare you and get you on board than to connect you with someone that has gone through it themselves. That's why we've created a brand new peer mentoring network in place to help you from the time that you start to enroll in our courses. And to begin, when it comes to selecting your classes, we have You Start leaders who are student peer mentors themselves, who have gone through the very same experience to help you with your onboarding. So once you accept our offer, we're going to set you up with an enrollment window. We're going to send you onboarding training modules, but our You Start leaders are there to help you navigate through each step of the process. And some of you may already be connecting with them through Facebook. But if you have any burning questions right now about course enrollments, I encourage you to connect with our You Start leaders by emailing joinampd@yorku.ca. But also when it comes to personal support, we have an exceptional peer mentoring team that operates out of Winters College. Now, Winters College is a space on campus, but we like to promote it as our home away from home. And they're also offering supports right now virtually. And all of our peer supports, once you're enrolled into your courses, we're going to assign you a peer mentor who is from your program to help you navigate your first year experience. So I highly encourage you to connect with us by following us on our Instagram account @Winters College. Our peer mentoring team is putting together some creative initiatives that you might enjoy, including our current 14-day Creative Arts Challenge. So follow our peer mentors at Winters College on Instagram. So everyone, when it comes to advising or peer supports, I just want you to know that AMPD is here to support you along your undergraduate experience. And personally, I look forward to meeting you all, and when the time comes, to celebrating you at your graduation ceremony. But that's just a little bit about what we offer. I think it's best that you hear from our experts themselves. So with that, we're going to transition to our incredible student leaders, featuring our panelists, Gloria, Ryan, and Mena.
Thank you, Jason. And again, welcome to our SAMs. I see that there are lots of questions in the chat. We're definitely, we will get to them. before we get to specific individual questions, I did want to just kind of, you know, get the ball rolling with our students here today, and pose to them just a kind of preliminary question, which is to invite you to kind of talk about, you know, thinking back to when you were starting these many years ago, right? And, you know, entering AMPD in your various programs, and thinking about, you know, where you wanted to be, where you wanted to you know, start your you know, university career. What stood out for you as the key decisions to come to AMPD at York?
I think for me personally was seeing the breadth of work that the students were producing. I had some friends that were already going to York, and I saw that they were in the design program and the work was just phenomenal. And I thought, wow, like I could be capable of doing something like that. So that's what persuaded me.
Yeah, for me, it was, first of all, shout out to everyone from Montreal. I'm really excited to see people from Quebec. I was happy for that. But yeah, for me, I've wanted to be like in a bustling city, let's say. So Toronto is a really cool option for me. And on top of that, I also really appreciated the facilities that we have, and also the environment and the ambiance. I remember coming in for my audition into the theater program, and I was very nervous. I could barely eat, but then as soon as I came in, I was welcomed with open arms, and even being able to have like casual conversations with the faculty within 5 minutes of meeting them. And that was something that I didn't get in any other schools that I went to.
For me, it was really similar. I really liked the whole family aspect that was demonstrated by the York students, and I'm in film, so the York filmmakers, which was really special to me. And I actually went on a tour and I met a couple film students, and that whole just bond that they had, and then seeing the work they were producing, I just really wanted to be a part of that. It made me feel really special to be allowed to come in and actually, you know, join up with everybody. So that's definitely why I came.
Well, I can say, you know, without hesitation that we are really grateful that the three of you, among others, did. I mean, you've done so much and given so much to the school. I'm curious, you know, and I imagine others might have this, and there's certainly some specific questions coming up about this. But can you kind of? I like to ask you a little bit about your initial experience, right? Like when we're starting a new thing, it's sometimes we have ideas about what it's going to be like. Maybe we have apprehensions about it. You know, were there things that were different at AMPD than you imagined, and what were some of the surprises about starting university here? Ryan, do you want to start us this time? We'll go in reverse order.
Yeah, of course. Surprises. Really just how inviting it is. I spoke about the family aspect. When you're in high school, you tend to hear a lot of stories about university and sort of this like zeitgeist of what university is. It's just a lot of work, and there are, you know, professors, and it's all a lot to sort of take in. Once you get here, especially with AMPD, everyone is so inviting and so caring about you. All of my professors care about us as students, as artists, and as people. I've had professors email me if I'm not in class, if I'm sick, and ask me if I'm okay. It's little things like that that really make you feel looked out for and cared for, and really goes into that family aspect that I keep talking about. When you're part of AMPD, you're really part of something. And I 100% believe in that. And I think that's really special and really great that we offer that.
So I guess it's my turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I was a transfer student, so I did a 2-year college program, and I got a diploma there in Sherbrooke. And it was a very small program, and we were like, my graduating class was only 10 people actually. And so I kind of was worried about coming into university and just getting kind of lost in the sea of people that's there, and especially at York because it's such a big population in the university. But like kind of like Ryan said, the exact opposite happened. I felt very close to the people I was with because they're different class sizes that are offered, especially when it comes to more of the studio courses that are available. So then you get to have that one-on-one discussions with faculty, with other students as well, and really creating a sense of community there as well.
I think that's one of the things that's most remarkable as I've sort of been learning more about it is both the kind of global access, right, in terms of what you can experience and see with this very close personal attention. You know, Mena, what's that experience been like for you?
For me, I was most shocked by the creativity from my peers. You know, you come to school and you think that you're going to learn from your professor, and what you do, and you learn so much. But I was just so surprised, like how much my peers have taught me over the years, just how to like grow as a creative person, and be yourself, and to explore and try new things. So that was outstanding.
Well, you've certainly made a lot of your experience here. I'm wondering, you know, before we just one last question before we get to the sort of specifics, and I see and I can imagine that a lot of people are thinking about, you know, hey, what's, you know, that's like AMPD, you know, in you know, IRL. What does it look like in this new kind of configuration? And so we'll definitely get to that. But I'm wondering, you know, before we get to some of those specific questions, you know, do the three of you have any recommendations or advice, or, you know, is there something that you would want a potential incoming student to any of the programs in AMPD to know, or to advice you would have for them? Go ahead, Mena.
I would say to definitely be open and to try new things, especially being creative. If you are open-minded, you can learn so much. And I know it's hard at first and it's scary being in a new school with lots of people, but just try to push yourself to keep trying new things and grow.
That's great advice.
Mm-hmm. I would go along the same line as what Mena had said. Trying new things, getting involved. In first year, I found that's when you have the most time to do a lot of things and tap into a lot of different aspects. So participating in Winters College activities, sports, social events, trips even that happen. If you want to be on council, you can start that in first year. There's different student associations too that you can get involved in and meet new people. And for me, that's been like really a cool experience. And what I've appreciated a lot about AMPD in general is how easy it is to reach out to people in different programs, not just in your specific program.
And how about you, Ryan?
I have a very similar answer, but slightly different. I would say almost branch out creatively in a lot of ways. When you become an artist, it becomes very easy to sort of do the same thing over and over again. Sort of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. One thing I learned, this is more of a film-centered answer. Before university, I would always write or make the same type of movie. But once I came to York, it sort of forced me to branch out in a more broad creative aspect. So just, can I give a quick example?
Of course.
Last year, I directed a movie for a class that I never thought in a million years I would direct. It was just a strange, surrealist movie, and I had never done that before. And doing it was super duper exciting, and it's now something I kind of want to focus on more in the future. So I never thought I would do that, ever. And coming here and meeting all these people and meeting incredible artists who teach here and fellow students, it really sort of forced me to look at how I want to go forward creatively and find new avenues to use as a creative outlet. So that was really exciting to me.
That's really cool. Before we get to, and we're going to sort of turn to some of the specific submitted questions. I do want to just address one kind of big overarching, and then we can, you know, follow up as needed, about what does fall look like at York, and particularly what does a fall in these circumstances look like in a School of the Arts. What York has decided, right, and I've been part of these conversations, and we've looked very carefully with and working very carefully with folks in public health, Toronto Public Health, as well as in the province and at the federal level. Our number one priority, as it is for everybody, right, is the health and safety of our community, our faculty and staff, our students, those who might choose at some point to live on campus, those who are commuting from nearby or maybe even quite far. So health and safety is really uppermost in our mind. The next real critical issue for us is access. So we know that regardless of what we're doing in the fall, perhaps not everyone can or will be able to, or will want to, or feel comfortable being on campus physically. So what we've done is redesign our courses to make sure that they are available and that course options are there, regardless of whether you're around the corner or around the world. And this is where our experience in e-learning really comes into play, because we're able to not just focus on synchronous learning, but we can explore asynchronous learning. I'm also really excited because we've been able to really in a kind of shocking amount of time develop studio options. So one of the questions that I saw was like, will it just be academic classes? And certainly I think that would be easier, right? We'll all just do large history lectures and people can do, individual tutorials and boom, everybody's, back on Zoom. But we've actually worked very closely in every program to develop hands-on experiential studio-based practices that you can do remotely. And this is everything from ceramics to performance to different kinds of media making as well. We are hoping that there will be opportunities for select and very small gatherings on campus. We're still exploring those options. And before we do anything and make any decisions about what will be available, we're also exploring and looking at what security and safety measures we can put in place to ensure that if anyone is on campus, they are completely safe. So we're securing supply lines for personal protection equipment. We're looking at how to ensure social distancing in all of our spaces. We've mapped out our studios to ensure that we know exactly how many people can be in a given space and what is needed to keep them safe. So I believe that there will be lots of options in the fall. You'll be able to start your career in whatever way you want, have options to do that. The last thing I'll simply say about that is, as we kind of look at the next year, I keep reminding people that really it's not where you start, it's where you finish. So lots of different people and lots of different programs are going to start in lots of different places. The real question is, can we make sure, where do we finish? And my goal as the dean of the school is to ensure that we finish in a place where everybody's healthy, everybody's connected, everybody is involved, and everybody has an equal access and opportunity. And I believe that we've put in place the systems that we need in order to do that, and we'll continue to work on that over the next several weeks and certainly over the summer to get ready for fall in whatever mode of course delivery is happening. I don't know if there's a good way to moderate all of the other questions here.
I'll hop in here, Sarah. Thank you very much
Laura.
for that answer. I think we're going to move into, we have a few specific questions about things like enrollment. So a few people have asked about enrollment appointments and when that can be expected. And also we had a question about the requirements for the first year. So they were asking about our FA 1900, our natural science requirements, things like that. Now, Ryan and Gloria, you guys are also our U-Start leaders. So you're helping with enrollment and things like that. I was wondering if you guys could touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So for enrollment, they have been pushed to June 8th. So starting June 8th, that's when all enrollment windows are going to be opening, and each individual person is going to have a different enrollment appointment or window. So what you can do is go online and type in enrollment window York U, and then you'll be able to find all the information you need to find how you can enroll and when your enrollment window is going to open. And you don't have to enroll at that day on that specific time. That just means that now you are able to enroll and you can take your time in selecting your courses and making sure that all of the courses work well for you as well. To add on that, make sure you select your program courses and then add your 1900s and nats and all that around that to make sure that there's no schedule conflicts as well.
I believe at that time too, you're also going to be receiving a list of your course requirements for your degree. So it'll tell you exactly how many like nat sci courses or how many 1900 courses you need to take in order to graduate.
Can you tell people what that means for those of us who aren't in on the code?
Oh yes. You have to take so there's your normal degree requirements that pertain to your major. So again, speaking of film, you have your like film studies classes or your screenwriting classes. But then you also have general education, which could be your science courses or your history courses or your psychology courses. And you need a certain amount of those credits in order to graduate and get your degree. So what will happen is when enrollment opens, you'll be receiving a package that has your degree breakdown basically. And it shows exactly when and where you can sign up for your classes, how many credits you need to take for each one.
Great, thank you. On a related note, I have had a few questions surrounding double majors and minors, and we also have somebody on the chat from who's doing a Bachelor of Science, so welcome, and they were asking about our courses. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to answer this one. Anybody who's interested in a double major or a minor can add that starting in December of their first year of studies. So they want to make sure you have a semester under your belt, see what your grades are like, and also make sure you're settled into your own program. Not every program allows for double majors or minors. For example, design and digital media do not allow for those, but there is room for electives in those courses. All of the other courses, it depends on what you want to pair with, but there is lots of options for double majors, and it's very popular with our students as well. So you can do that once you're a student, starting in December. And for the science students, there are lots of courses available to non-majors within AMPD. I think acting for non-majors is one of the most popular programs at York in general. And also you'd have the opportunity of adding an AMPD minor if you'd like to do that as well. Somebody asked what a typical day in a BFA program is like. So maybe each of you could walk through a typical day for you. We'll start with Mena.
So a typical day for me would probably be going to class, having fun in class, and then I usually hang out on campus in between classes. We have spaces where in the design building you can hang out, or you can hang out in the AMPD like faculty area. So I usually hang out there and catch up with friends, and sometimes share my design ideas with them. So we kind of collaborate in between our classes, and then head to my second class for the day.
And Mena, what classes did you typically have? Like how many studio hours?
I usually had 3 studio classes and 2 studies, or 2 natural science or other electives. But they usually say not to overwhelm with studio classes, to have 2 to 3 per semester.
Okay, Gloria?
Yeah, so I think I'll do more of a first year typical day versus what I'm doing now, because then it changes a lot depending on streaming. So in first year, the way that the classes are divided is that you have 2 classes that are in lecture style. So it's all of the people in your year in the theater program are gathered in one room and are sitting down for a lecture. So those are Thursdays and Fridays for the history lecture and the stagecraft lecture. And then Mondays and Tuesdays, those are the days for your studio classes. So on Monday, you'll have your acting studio class, and then on Tuesday, you'll have your stagecraft studio class. So in those classes, then that's when you learn like sewing, carpentry, lighting, and sound sometimes, and depending on this first or second semester. But yeah, so in first year, I would say it's a really good balance between studio and lecture courses so that you're able to get the information before you actually get your hands on, but like all at the same time. So it's more concrete while you're doing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing Gloria did because it sort of changes throughout the year. So I'll focus more on a first year day. Very similar to theater. We have more more lecture based in the beginning of the week, and then more in the middle towards the end is where there's a lot more studio time. And that's so we do sort of get hands-on experience before we go into the more studio-based stuff afterwards. So it's a really great way to get to know your professors, your peers, before you go into a more practical environment, which is a lot more hands-on and a lot more personal. So having that basis and sort of that like background is hugely beneficial. And then as you go throughout the years, it becomes a lot more practical, and then the lectures sort of stay in the same area, but you'll add more and more studio time as you go forward.
Okay, great, thank you. We had somebody else ask about the size of first year courses. Do you guys want to comment a bit on first year and then upper year courses and their sizes?
Should I go first?
Sure.
In film, first year, the class sizes are much larger. I think there's actually a Q&A question that talks about whether all the film programs sort of like screenwriting and studies and production sort of interact with each other. I can kind of do a dual thing because it actually pertains to the answer. The answer is yes, first year especially. You're all sort of together in first year, and then you branch out going forward, but you're still heavily connected. So in first year, a lot of the courses are sort of intertwined with each other. So you'll be taking screenwriting classes with the screenwriting majors, and then the screenwriters could be taking a production class with all the production majors. So they're much larger class sizes. That being said, going forward, they start to get smaller and smaller as you sort of stay within your major specifically. So I remember in my first year, I had a class with around 150 people. And then my second year, my main class was like 60 people, because they sort of break down from there. But you do interact with, like, say, screenwriting and production are intertwined all the time. So you'll be making screenwriting students films, for example, and they'll be writing for you. It's everything sort of intertwined, and the class sizes sort of reflect that going forward.
Okay, how about Gloria?
Yeah, so in first year, in the theater program, I believe we're the largest program in AMPD, correct me if I'm wrong. And so in first year, we have like I think around 130, 150 people in the lecture classes. But then for, let's say, the theater history course, we're divided into tutorials afterwards. So those end up being maybe 20, 25 people per tutorial. And then with the stagecraft class, we're also all together in the same class. But then on Tuesdays, when we have our stagecraft tutorials, those tutorials are divided in 3-hour slots throughout the day. So there are 3 classes, and those 3 classes are also 3 separate courses. So let me say this concretely, so it's very complicated. So let's say 8:30 to 11:30, there's going to be a costuming, a carpentry, and a lighting lab happening all at the same time, but it's 3 different classes. And those 3 time slots happen 3 times a day. So 8:30 to 11:30, 11:30 to 2:30, and 2:30 to 5:30. So with those, even though we're over 100 people in the class, we end up being 15 or less per tutorial. So that means, again, safety being our #1 priority. You'll be safe in those tutorials and get to ask questions directly to the TA. And yeah, and then same for acting. You're also divided into smaller labs. Those ones are about 20 to 30, depending on the amount of teachers assistants we have for those ones as well. So yeah, even though it's a big program, it's divided in a way that that's how you get to connect with people more directly as well.
Okay, great. Next up, we have a couple of questions about extracurriculars. So they're sort of related. Somebody asked about any clubs or extracurriculars that are related to AMPD. And then somebody else asked if we have time outside of class for things like clubs and part-time jobs. Let's start with Menna.
Yeah, you definitely do have time outside of class, especially in your first years in AMPD, to do other things that you want. And we definitely encourage you to do so. For example, from my experience, I was able to do the Design Student Association, which is related to AMPD. It's a club more focused on design. And I'm not sure if the other guys would like to contribute if there's anything related to your programs that you guys have clubs for.
Yeah, we do. I think every program in AMPD has a club. And then there's also the Creative Arts Student Association that gathers all of AMPD programs together. Yeah, there's a lot of things to do. Again, council is an opportunity. Sports also is a really fun way to be active and healthy and meet people, even outside of AMPD altogether. And part-time jobs is definitely possible. We're all doing it, so yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's tons of clubs. There was a Harry Potter club. There's even if you're in like residence, there's like a residence council, which is a really great way to get involved with not only your residents, your peers, but also like they do a lot of like charity drives. So it's a great way to help out your community at the same time. And then outside of clubs, there's sort of like unofficial clubs where people will host like viewing parties and stuff. Like I think there was a Game of Thrones viewing one. People organize like in film. I know people organize like trips to like go see movies together. Even if you're not in like a club specifically, there are always ways to get involved with the community and to get involved with your peers in a lot of meaningful ways. And we do offer that. It's really great.
Okay, I think this might be our last question, and I apologize to everybody that we didn't get to. I mentioned in the chat, if we didn't get to your question, if it was a little more specific, we may have skipped it, and you can definitely email ampd@yorku.ca and we'll answer you right away. But our last question for today, somebody asks, is it easy to know your professors and talk to them? Do you get lost in the crowd with big classes? High school classes are pretty small. Did you guys feel a big difference moving to bigger class sizes? So we'll start with Gloria.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. In theater, that one thing that we have that is even mandatory is advisors that are professors in the department, and we have mandatory meetings with them once a semester. So you definitely will be able to get to know your professors because you have to. But there's also opportunities if you're involved in different things through a crew or things like that, that you're going to be able to speak to them more directly through office hours or just emails or things like that. I think the people in first year specifically that you'll have the closest relationship with will definitely be your teacher's assistants, because those are the ones that you're going to be seeing in smaller classes and be able to have more one-on-one contact, and most likely you're going to be more comfortable speaking to them just because you have that initial contact with them as well.
Okay, Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, definitely. Especially I think in AMPD, because it is a lot more like specific and specialized. It's really easy to get to know your professors. So Gloria mentioned knowing your TAs. That's really cool, but especially going forward, in film, I can speak to the most obviously, but especially with like smaller class sizes, like I had some classes that were maybe like 12 people, like with 12 people. So you really get one-on-one time with your professors. And it's like I said earlier, they always look out for you. They're artists too. So they sort of know what you're going through, sort of the hoops, the struggles. They're always there to help you out. And having that really close, tight-knit relationship with those mentors is really, really special, especially to like me personally. Getting to know them is really, really great, and it helps your education as well as helping you grow as a person, if that makes sense.
And Menna?
So for design, it's a little different, at least in my experience. We don't have as much of a TA system, but you do get to know your professor really well. For example, in my studio courses, we usually have 30 people or less. So that really fosters a community for you to like build your skills with your professor, meaning that you'll have one-on-one critiques with them. And this is really helpful. Definitely through those critiques, you'll improve your work and you will get to know them in the process.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Once again, if you have any questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, please email us and we'd be happy to connect you. Even if you want to connect directly with Gloria, Ryan, or Mena, we can do that as well, or Jason. And I'm going to pass it back over to Sarah now.
So I just want to say thank you all for participating in this. I see that there are lots of really good questions, including sort of, how how one kind of gets through the program. What are some of the resources? What I want to kind of conclude with as a sort of final thought is that one of the things that we're very invested in and have a real history in is that, and we know, is that people can only take risks and experiment when they feel safe, and that people are at their most creative when they are at their most secure. So we're working always very hard to create environments in which students feel supported and have the ability to really take some chances, explore new things, not just across different areas of AMPD, but the university at large. So I really want to thank Laura and Robin and Jason for being here today. They're an important part of our student support team. And if you're here, you'll know them quite well and see them. I also really want to say a big thank you to the students for taking time and for being, especially in this kind of strange environment, right? That I don't think any of us are quite, well, maybe Ryan with like acting for the camera, right? That, maybe this is an environment that feels better to him. But I also just, fair enough. But I also just really want to thank all of the, prospective learners and future students and parents and families and friends who are here. We will absolutely get back to you with the questions that you've posted. And I just want to say thank you for your interest in AMPD at York. I'm incredibly grateful and excited to be here every day. Looking forward to when we can all be back on campus again. And I look forward to meeting each one of you as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. I really appreciate it.